So this paper is about the shareholder connection and ESG rating inflation. It's co-authored with Mark, Dragon, and Jiali. So typically in the seminar and conference, I need to highlight the importance of ESG. So for example, if we look at the socially responsible investments, which counts 26% of the total asset under professional management, that is $12 trillion in 2018. Among this big pie, $12 trillion, 11.6 trillion applies the ESG criteria. So the ESG rating is definitely very important for the SIR investments. Well, recently there's various concern about these ESG rating agencies. Question the integrity about the ESG rating. And also there's various confusion about the ESG rating. And why there's a public concern about the ESG rating? This is related to the method of ESG rating. So we get the data, the ESG rating agency gets the data from the corporate report, the government report, NGA database, media news, and etc. And there's so many indicators under the ESG umbrella. We have environment, social, and governance. And they use the tick box method. If you meet the requirements, they tick a box. So here is the thing is that some information is open to interpretation. For example, in the conference, mentioned a couple times about the pillar social. If we think about the relation between the employee and employer, it is kind of hard to quantify whether we tick the box or not. In other words, there's room and space for the readers to judge whether to incorporate this information or not, and to what extent to incorporate this information. So in this paper, we ask the question whether there's any conflict of interest in the ESG rating industry. And if the answer is yes, who are the behind the scene? Who benefits from them? And what is the consequence and how this happened? So before I go to the details about our funding, first let me summarize our results given the time limits. So indeed, we find that ESG raters tend to give the higher rating to the connected firm. So if we think about a rater, a large investment company own the shares in the rater and also own the shares of other company. So the ESG rater connected with other firms through certain channels, and the rating agency tend to give the higher rating to the connected firms. Further, we find that the closer they connected, and the sister firm tend to receive the higher rating. And here we identify exogenous shock when the rating agency to take over the rating business, and we show that this ESG inflation, rating inflation, has causal effects. And related to third research question, how this happened, how the rating was inflated. And we found that the rating agency tend to fail to incorporate the negative news, the negative ESG news in the rating. We hope this can raise awareness from the investor and also the relative relevant policymaker. So our study is related to three-strand literature. The first one is ESG. Recently we have tracked the ESG tracked so much attention from the industry, from academic community, and they highlight various issues about ESG. So I have a couple papers also from the Oxford professor highlight that there's various divergence and confusion about the ESG rating. The second strand literature related to our study is about the conflict interest. So the paper by Kadia in the 2014 and 2017, they look at the credit rating industry, look at the Moody and SP. So they found that the conflict interest exists in the credit rating industry. The third strand literature is the role of a large shareholder. So if we think about large shareholders, there's a two-sided story. One side is a large shareholder can influence company to push them for better performance, for the better operation. On the other hand, there's good possibilities that large shareholder extract private benefits because the ownership in the company. So here we look at the large shareholder of the ESG rater. An important variable in our study is the sister firm. So by sister firm, that is a large, important investee of large shareholders. So large shareholders of ESG rater is defined by the, own at least 5% of the ESG return. And the large investees, those companies which owned by large shareholders, at least 0.25% of shares owned by the large shareholders. We also use alternative definition like 1% or 5% of shares. The result is large similar. So on the top, we have the ESG rater, and ESG rater owned by large shareholders, like investment firms. And investment firms own various companies, and that is their investee companies. So the ESG rater connected with these companies, investee companies, through the common ownership. So these figures to show our one of the main findings. So we look at the ESG rating for our sister firms, and also the matching firms have similar characteristics with the sister firms. The horizontal axis is time. So T is, we can consider as event time that the rating agency take over the ESG business. And the vertical is the ESG rating. So we can say that for this dark bars is MSC, is the sister firms, and the green bars are matching firms. So after the time T that we consider exogenous shock, after they took over the ESG business, we can say that the sister firms receive much higher rating compared to before the rating agency take over the business. So we perform various empirical tests. So for example, this is our baseline results. On the left-hand side, we have ESG rating. On the right-hand side, we have the first variable is the sister. That is the dummy variable. If you are sister to the ESG rater, the dummy equal to 1, otherwise the dummy equal to 0. And also we have variety of control variables. So totally, for our X is the control variable, we have 15 control variables, which has shown to have connected with the ESG rating. So in this table, our dependent variable is the ESG rating. Our independent variable, we have our dummy variable, the sister dummy variable, and also we have 15 control variables, and we use industry fixed effect and also the year fixed effect. So here I want you to pay attention to the column 5. For the column 1 to 4, we use various combinations of fixed effect. For the column 5, we include the fixed effect for the industry and also for the year. So we can see that the coefficient on the sister is positive and significant. And that suggests that if you are sister firms to ESG rater, it is more likely that the sister firm will receive the higher ESG rating. In other words, ESG rating is subject to the conflict of interest. So next we ask questions. Does the importance of large firms to the raters matters? And does the importance of large rater, does the importance of sister firm to the large shareholders matter? For example, if the large shareholder hold more shares on the raters, or the large shareholder hold less shares on the rater. So we look at the size of ownership, whether they hold 5% in this company or hold 10%. Also, we look at the duration of the ownership. If they hold 3 years in their portfolio or they hold longer in their portfolio. And indeed, we found the results for support of our hypothesis that if the large shareholders are more important to the rater, or the sister firms, if the sister firms are more important to large shareholder, that matters. If you are closely connected with the raters, more closely connected raters, you are more likely to receive the higher rating. Of course, you may ask a question, right? Is there due to other reason, maybe because these particular sister firms, they have some change in the industry and industry practice and may push the rating higher, or because there's some macroeconomic wide events. So therefore, we use the benchmark. We have the rating, the ESG rating, we minus the benchmark rating, so we have two alternative ESG rating as a benchmark. And we find that even after control the benchmark, the ESG raters still provide higher rating to their sister firms. So far we have shown that the ESG rater provide higher rating to the sister firms. You may ask the question, how this happened? And how the rating was inflated. So we invite the following questions. How thoroughly does the ESG rater incorporate the negative news in the rating? So we use the data from the rep risk, and they provide only the negative news. So we look at the negative news. And we use two different proxies. One is the media coverage. In other words, how many of this negative news. Second is the level of the reach and the severity. Thank you. So whether this news is internationally or this domestically or just in the city level. So we find that the rating inflation is due to that the ESG rater fail to incorporate the negative news. In other words, they incorporate less the negative news for their sister firms. And another concern about whether this inflation is because the rater provides this higher rating is because they have more informativeness. So if that is the case, we want to identify two proxies. One is a positive events, another is negative events. Positive events is whether it's likely to give higher rating due to the positive events or due to the negative events. Again, we find the evidence that the higher rating is not due to the informativeness of the rating itself. Instead, it's because of favorable treatment. So let me conclude. We show that ESG rating agency tend to give a higher rating to their connected firm, and this conflict of interest also exists in the ESG rating industry, similarly with the credit rating industry. And we show that this is mainly due to they fail to incorporate the negative news. And the most recent study highlights that we have a couple of very large ESG rating agencies, but there's various divergence and confusion about the ESG rating. So for example, we have a couple of people from MIT, they highlight the importance to understand the ESG rating. And also I think how Professor Robert Esco also have 2 papers on this. Thank you for your attention.